see if I feel this. 3, 2, 1, go. Guys, we're back. In the KNOVA podcast. So, for some of our fans out there, bad news. Nina's not here to keep me in line. This could be the podcast we finally get canceled. For some of the other fans, great news. This is the podcast we're going to get canceled. But I'm here today with Ronnie McClive. She goes by a few other names. Veronica. She's also known as the Poutine Queen. Is that
one of two Poutine Queens? Yes.
Yes. Oh, one of the queens. And you own Petit Poutine food truck. And sorry, make sure that audio was.
Gotta be recording. Always press record, as
I was
Steve would say.
making sure something doesn't sound quite right in the ear. But I think it's just in my head. It's because. That's better. I had the wrong headphones. You know, if you don't plug in your headphones, it is hard for them to work.
But now we're ready. We're here.
All right, we're back. In the KNOVA. Let's start over.
Action.
All right. No, but we're here with Ronnie. So, you've used to personal train with me for a long time. Several years.
Yes.
You've done the CrossFit Open and stuff at KNOVA.
Yeah.
So you've had some fitness under your belt. We can talk about fitness today, but that wasn't really the goal. I know that you had a whole bunch of interesting stuff going on with your businesses of late, and I thought it'd be interesting for some of our people to hear. I'm sure Ramil's listening to this, and he's probably the number one poutine fan in this gym, but I know a lot of people are as well. So I was interested in hearing about kind of your business, what's going on new, and then we can just kind of go on talking about whatever we want. I know it's been like a year or more since I've actually seen you in person. We've just followed each other on social media, I think.
I know. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for having me. It's been a while, Matt. You and I you trained me for like 4 years.
It was 4? 3?
I think so, 3 or 4. You got me in shape. You got me to do everything with the right form. The only thing you couldn't teach me was how to be on time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not your fault. That's my fault.
Yeah.
But no, and then COVID hit, and I had to stop training because I think like a lot of people, we had some restrictions, and I had some family stuff going on. So I'm glad to be here and be chatting and talking about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah.
People are going to listen to us just basically like catch up on the last
year. You're basically just listening around, have coffee and hang out.
That's right.
So what's going on with the business? I'm interested because I know you were opening something new. You want to tell the people?
Yeah. So Le Petit Poutine has 2 food trucks. Currently, we are a food truck company, and we are getting ready to become a brick-and-mortar restaurant as well. So we're actually opening directly next to where KNOVA used to be. So if you're a KNOVA person, there's no reason that you shouldn't be here, be at the new location when we open in the fall, and we're very excited about it.
In the old Glen Edith spot.
We're 44 Alton Street in the old Glen Edith spot. That's the biggest announcement for us. We just announced, I think, like 2 weeks ago that we're going to be opening in brick and mortar. It's been something we've wanted to do for a long time.
I remember for a long time, we used to always talk about that while working out, like what kind of place. No, so what kind of place is it going to be as far as food? Is it like poutine specific, or is it something way more than that? Or
thank you for asking. It's definitely going to be poutine heavy. So we are not abandoning, we're not going totally different. But so largely poutine on the menu, but we are going to be expanding and doing some things that we haven't been able to do in the truck that people have asked for. So sandwiches, some salads and appetizers, some things that people aren't going to expect from a French fry company.
I'm picturing a poutine sandwich. So I take 2 toasted pieces of bread with fries in the middle of gravy.
I mean, I like the way you think. Some of it's gonna be a little bit more standard. So some hot sandwiches, some like kind of panini type things, some salads. My partner and I are kicking around an idea that I want to tell you about, but basically we're not sure what the capacity is gonna be. But we're trying to find a way to do some salads that we can kind of skew so that they are both, good, but also, enjoyable and delicious, but also meet some actual fit food requirements, which would be nice because sometimes you go somewhere and it's loaded with cheese and dressing, and that's what we love. But also we're trying to do some planning in that regard too, so that people have options. We're running. One of the things we've heard from the truck over the years is that I think the people who come to our truck like our food. They like fries and cheese, and they're not there to be on Weight Watchers, but every now and then people are looking for a little bit additional variety, so that's what we're trying to provide.
Yeah, no, there's lots of times where it's like, hey, I want to come out and support your business, Ronnie, but also I'm a personal trainer and I've kind of got to avoid eating a lot of fried food.
Can I blow my entire calorie load at lunchtime?
I mean, like I know Vermeil at a gym, he probably eats poutine every Sunday at the Brighton Market when you guys are there.
If I can talk about Vermeil.
And Vermeil's in great shape.
For 1 minute. Yep. Dude is in amazing shape. Handsome as F. I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this, but
oh yeah, we swear. I swear all the time.
Okay, good. He's an OG, and when I say like OG, I remember Ramil coming to the truck. We've been open 10 years. The company is 10 years old. I remember his face when I started coming to Nova. I was like, I know this dude. Like, and I didn't. I remembered his order and his face and his name, and that's all I knew. But it was really fun coming to Nova and seeing him, and yeah, he's in great shape. So he's got the balance figured out.
So like as some of our like registered dietitians or nutrition coaches that have been on the pod have said before, it all can just fit into a scalable diet. Like you could have poutine or you can have a treat and not have it ruin your health. Moderation, right?
Exactly. And you know what? Every now and then we get people come to the truck that want to know how many calories are in a poutine.
A lot.
I've intentionally never counted, okay, guys? So just know it's a lot, but it can fit into a balanced day or week or lifestyle, you know?
Well, the funny thing I always would point out is someone would reference, the Petit Poutine truck that's one of my favorites in Rochester. And I'd say, oh yeah, I train the girl who owns it. And he's like, you train her? I'm like, yeah, she like works out all the time. She's like really healthy. She doesn't live on poutine, and you would do a lot of the health challenges, you would go on a lot of the things, counting all your vegetables, make sure. And I'd be like, and then literally how many times a week do you think you're eating poutine?
Oh my, currently.
Well, I mean, within reason. But you probably have it a couple times a week, I would imagine.
Currently, I eat it about once a week. But there was a time, this is not an exaggeration, that I ate it every day. Every single day on the truck.
Earmuffs for meal. Don't listen to that.
I wouldn't recommend it. It might have been around the same time I started training with you. I'm not sure. Probably those were in alignment. But yeah, now it's like once a week. It still tastes good. And it's a nice thing. I like it.
How did you get into food trucking? I feel like that's I don't know how to understand that business. Like, it's unique.
Yeah.
Because you travel around, and the results in certain locations must vary. It's not like, how predictable is your business? I guess, take me through, like, how you got into it, and, like, how do you even establish that business? If I wanted to start my own, what would I even have to think about doing? I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's so funny that the way you phrase that, nobody's ever asked me how predictable is that business. It's very unpredictable is the answer. And so I initially started with the business. I was printing t-shirts. I think I always kind of wanted to work for myself.
Oh yeah, you, by the way, I always have the wackest, weirdest t-shirts. If you guys can see the stuff she wears to the gym, I just look at it, confused, trying to figure out what her shirt is saying. And then midway through the workout, I usually ask.
Yeah.
But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I like a good t-shirt. I was printing t-shirts at the time, and that is a tough industry because there's a lot of people who do custom screen printing, and and I was enjoying it a lot. I was also helping my friend from college, Liz. She started the truck. She probably did it for about 6 months, I would say, and then those first 6 months, she was really just explaining to people what poutine was because nobody in town knew, and everybody wanted plain fries. So she spent.
Now, Rochester is the only place in my entire life I have seen poutine.
Really?
I mean, I've never been like in another city.
Yeah. New
York or anywhere. I've traveled at this point like a lot of the major cities. I've never seen it like advertised anywhere. I know it's like a Canadian thing originally.
Yep, it's French Canadian. I think it's kind of had like a little bit of a renaissance. It's like other food trends. For a while everybody had a soft cooked egg on everything, or pork belly was like, when you follow food stuff, there are trends where people, everybody's doing certain things. And for a minute it was poutine. It was probably around like, somewhere in the time that we started. But Liz's family is Canadian, and she spent summers going up to the family cottage and eating poutine. Okay. So that's where the idea came from, and she brought it to Rochester. But not unlike yourself, a lot of people had no clue what it was. So as it started to pick up steam and as people started to enjoy it, she was asking me to help her. We were roommates. Oh, can you help me on the truck? I'm just busy. I got this one event. She was working it solo by herself, and it got busy. Hey, I need help. Can you hop on? And then eventually that went well enough, and we picked up enough steam that she was like, hey, I think we should just do this together. I think we could really make a thing of it. And what was nice about it is I had some experience doing a small business, bookkeeping, sales, that kind of stuff. She had a lot of food experience, so we were learning. We had, and we do have complementary skill sets, I think, that still work well together. But we were also just learning the food truck business, which was brand new. And to your point, there's so many variables and there's just so much to it.
I remember one time I had this other personal training client, and he's actually a medical doctor, and I think he was stressed out. And he's like, man, I wish I could just do a simpler job. I want to just have a food truck. It'd be so easy. And knowing you, I was like, I bet not. I've seen Ronnie be pretty stressed out more than a couple times working long hours and stuff, or seen you come into the gym just so tired from being working. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think food trucking's easy.
It's like any other. Yeah. First of all, if you're a doctor and you're making doctor money, please just do that. You can take the pay cut you're going to get on a food truck, but it is a fun job, to that guy's comment. But there's a lot to it, and it is always changing. When you asked about consistency, and the fact is, if you get a food truck and you park in the same lunch spot every day, my experience has been, which is 10 years strong now, you're not going to make a ton of money. The food truck format is one that people want you to be moving around. They want you to be bouncing around. We do a strong blend of festivals, catering jobs, and what I call street services, which is I'm going to pull up in front of Lux, or I'm going to the market, and I'm going to be at Brighton every Sunday. So, it's like a personal, I would guess, and we have talked about this, it's like a personal training client base. You can't just sit at the same spot and say, here's my table, ask me to train you. You have to really develop a client base, and they're going to be all over the map, and you have to kind of dig into figuring out what works for you, and finding all kinds of for us it's events, for personal trainers it's clients or classes. But yeah, holy shit, there's a lot more to it than people see. They see us open the window, they see us high-fiving and having fun and putting food out and smiling, and then you're not there when it's raining, you're not there when the truck breaks down on I-90 and you blow a tire, you're not there when 3 people quit on the same day because they were all buddies, and turns out they were all upset with you or the job and they didn't like it. And it's like any small business, so it is definitely a fun format, and I really enjoy it. But one thing we're hoping that by opening a restaurant we're providing is, it's kind of funny to say this because restaurants have existed forever, so we're not exactly reinventing the wheel. But with food trucks, we're closed during the winter, and by providing a restaurant.
I forgot you closed during the winter. I was just thinking of poutine is such a great winter food, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I've only had poutine for you when it's hot out.
Yeah, because these trucks are really difficult to run in the winter for a million reasons. One of which being, it's just really tough on the equipment. You know what I mean? You think of your car in the winter, you need to winterize it. Holy shit! Again, with trucks. There's water systems.
Late November, right?
Yeah, we usually go to about December 1st-ish, and then we close for the winter. So with the restaurant being open, you're gonna be able to get poutine whenever you want. You're gonna be able to come, and hopefully our customers will have that consistency they've been asking for, and then we'll be able to in turn provide that to our staff, who won't have to find a new job every November, or so there's a lot to it.
So I imagine there are certain principles in any business, probably things you've learned along the way as an entrepreneur. I never say that word quite right. But anyway, that would, transfer to my job. Or are there any business practices that you find to be particularly helpful that you think carry over into other industries? Or maybe you've gotten from other industries that you adopted?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, this is going to sound corny, but it is true. Honesty, being an honest person, an honest business owner. One, because even if it's something that, sometimes you don't want to give the fully honest answer because there's stuff behind the scenes your customers don't see, right? Sometimes somebody asks me about an event and it's only got 20 people. And the honest answer is, hey, in order for me to start my truck, get it out there, pay for people to be on site, this isn't a big enough event.
Yeah.
Finding a delicate, honest way to answer that, people like way more than just not responding to their email or not taking the job. So finding ways to be honest with your client base and your customers, whether in my case it's about where does the food come from. We cut every French fry by hand. We make the gravy in-house. Where we source stuff. I'd rather answer those questions than for any reason try and not do it. And I know you're kind of shaking your head at me duh.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's a lot of people out there in business that lie, and that is what makes it harder for other businesses and other trainers and other everything to to talk to customers. Sometimes customers come to you and they are untrustworthy of you as a small business person or small practitioner. So yeah, it turns out it's not everybody's first insight like it is ours, or instinct.
Yeah, know? So it's kind of like, and I think I didn't always know this when I was like a new trainer. I was trying to just trying to meet as many clients as I could, do whatever I could. I needed money, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody was like, I want this type of training, I'm like, okay, sure, I'll figure it out how to give you that. But really, I would have been better off if I spent more time just telling, here's what I do, here's what I don't do.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to figure it out. I imagine it's kind of basically what we're talking about, is you knowing these are the events I can do, these events I don't do. It's nothing personal. It's business.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at, and what you were just explaining very well, is there's a fake it till you make it mentality. And that sometimes takes you so far, but like you said, maybe if you just said to somebody like, hey, I would love to get into that kind of training. Turns out I don't have a ton of experience in it. What I'm really good at is this. Yeah. Like, that's the gentle, honest way to say, I don't really know the answer to that. And people respect that.
And I think you've got to be, like, in any industry, I would imagine, but you got to be, like, in it long enough to be comfortable enough to, like, say, like, you got to have the confidence to be like, yeah, this is an area. And some things I used to do as a trainer before, I just don't do now, because partly they don't interest me in the same way, but also I don't see them as valuable to most populations of people. So I'll just, like, if somebody wants to do a bodybuilding show, I guess technically I would know the more or less how to do it, and I've had success with that in the past. But I'm like, there are better coaches than me to hire for that, and I would just tell somebody that. Like, I'd be like, actually, I don't really do that type of training anymore. We're just talking about this on a different podcast, so if you're a listener, congrats, you like the show, you're hearing the same story.
But it's true.
It's true, and it's like just that ability to be like, I don't know, or I don't do that type of treatment. That's interesting. Yeah, that's good.
There's a couple other things like COVID this last year.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. I imagine napalm to your business, right?
Yeah, and one thing, yes, to everybody. So without going into it, because honestly, I think people are so tired of talking and thinking about COVID. We're all like, it's summer and there's no masks anymore. Let's go forward. But there's lessons to be had.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I learned a lot about me, for better or worse, and business and stuff, and what I, wanted to focus on. But yeah, go ahead.
One of the big things that I learned was, and my business partner Liz and I have always, I don't want to say, well, maybe prided ourselves. We've been proud of ourselves for creating what I would call like a variety of sources of income. So in our heads, we were like, hey, we don't just do festivals. There's a lot of risk there. People may not think about this because you're not in my business, but festivals are outdoors. They're once a year. They're weather dependent. There's a lot of eggs in one basket there. And if it rains, that's a big loss for you. So there's a lot of balancing that goes on there. We've always created like a balance of events. We do catered events, which are, you can talk with the customer and you lock it in. It's a specific date and price and blank, whatever, all those factors. We do festivals. We do street service. We do, all kinds of things. And to us, that felt like, hey, we have enough variety here that if one thing falls, then we've got these other things to help balance it. What COVID taught me is that all of our eggs were in one basket, and that basket is called events. So once events started to get canceled, and once there was public gatherings shutting down, that's what we do. I mean, we open the window and there's a line of people, and when you're saying people can't gather anymore, it made me realize, all of our events, that is, we really don't do the variety that I thought we are in.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Wow. So as far as diversifying, I wasn't really sure how to do that. What would I do to get other sources of income? Everything we do is based on putting out a specific, hot, fresh, perishable product.
Yeah, so no Zoom there to help you.
Exactly. So that really made me thinking, and I'm not even sure that we've solved that situation, but it had me thinking all during COVID about what ways could, as a small business person, maybe it's merchandise, maybe it's business coaching, I don't know, like, what could I have done in this realm of like food trucks and poutine to take my experience and diversify it in another way?
You could have come and painted houses with me last summer. You would have hated it just as much as me, but diversity.
Right. I could have diversified that way. The other thing that COVID taught me was about preparedness, and financial preparedness.
Yeah.
And I think to a lot of people that's going to mean exactly what you would think. Have some money in the bank. Don't go super low on your cash flow. 100%. Yeah. But also financial preparedness, and there are a lot of grants available. There are a lot of government programs available. Having your records, your sales records, your tax records, your expenses fairly organized. And when I say fairly, you know me, I'm always a little bit behind, but fairly organized so you can sit down in a short period of time and get them organized to file for those grants. That was huge. And the fact that we had our stuff fairly organized enough that I could sit down and knock it out and get it organized allowed us to apply for things like PPP and some other programs that allowed us to get that money in the door. You know, there were some big news stories about maybe women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses not getting a share of money. Really, in my, you know, it boils down to what you might call unbanked businesses. An unbanked business is a small person whose tax system is a shoebox, you know, or if they didn't have that stuff ready to go, they can't apply for those things. Yeah. So that's a lesson that I learned in it.
That's a really good point, because I didn't think about it until you brought it up. But, you know, like I think a lot of personal trainers and even if they're doing it on a full-time income base, reporting of taxes, reporting of income is a shoddy thing in the industry, you know. Yeah. And, you know, if a trainer's making $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year, I mean, it's not like we're robbing the government. But for a lot of years, I would have good books. I would have no books, like essentially. Fortunately, about like 3-ish or 4-ish years ago, I started getting my shit together a whole lot more organized. And like a lot of like the things you were saying, the PPP loan, things like that, were, you know, I think they wanted like the last 3 years of your taxes or something like that. And I was like, holy crap, I only have the last 3 years. And I was like, thank God. But you're right. And it made it very convenient when shit hit the fan, so to speak. But if I wouldn't have thought about that on purpose. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And it's just that thing. It's like, that's the thing about being prepared is like, kind of you either are or you aren't. And when you aren't, it's not the end of the world. But in me, it makes me want to get prepared for next time. So people who are, you know, trying to make a living as a solo entrepreneur, like you said, trainers or a lot of other industries, I'm not talking about how you should do your tax. I'm not passing judgment on what you claim. No.
I was just saying that.
No, but I mean that's the conversation that I think people have and that they're afraid to have. I'm just saying
because if you're not paying taxes, if you're not keeping records, then you have nothing to get help with. Yeah, you're 100%. Exactly right.
There's this. It's a whole. You know, it's a necessary evil, obviously, but having that stuff prepared enough that you can apply for it is huge. And you know, I kind of mentioned that term unbanked. You know, that's like when we see these news stories about the biggest companies got the money the quickest. Of course they did. They have a department of accountants who sit around or underwriting or whatever and have that stuff ready to go. It's not a mystery why a person who's a husband and wife team or a mom and pop didn't have someone to help them get that paperwork together quickly, or didn't think, you know, if you have an accountant, that's a job a lot of accountants will help you do. So those things help me.
You know what I learned during when everything got shut down is us entrepreneurs don't pay into the unemployment insurance. Yeah. And there was no unemployment money.
Yes.
That was a surprise. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, you're forcing me to shut down and I'm not even eligible to get any of this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. That was a scary moment, but I only had a little bit of a panic in the beginning of the pandemic. Like for like a month, because it was like too cold to paint outside, but like I just, you know, I had money, like, you know, I was okay, but also we didn't know what was going to happen, and it only seemed to be getting, like, worse. So I was like, what do I got to do? So, and then, like, people who own businesses that wanted their house painted were like, hey, I got to see what happens with my business. I might not be able to afford this. So people had to cancel some contracts, and thankfully rebooked them as a whole thing, but
it was a very delicate, I think for me it just shows how everything is, how this ecosystem we have, the financial ecosystem is delicate. Everything is balanced on that, you know?
I mean,
we all work together, so like you said, those people couldn't pay me until they knew what their business is doing. It was a whole seizure of everything just freezing up. But we all had a lot of time to sit at home and think about what to do differently next time.
Yeah, a lot of time to sit at home and consume too many IPAs.
Or do lots more WODs.
A lot of garage workouts. Yeah. There is I think anyone who works out in their garage now knows this, but there's nothing worse in your garage gym than when it's winter and you go outside and you try to touch that freezing cold barbell. Like, even if you're putting it on your back, you have to hold your hands on it. So unless you're wearing gloves, it's so, you're trying to do deadlifts or some other things, it's so cold and it doesn't warm up.
Yeah.
That like your hands like hurt afterwards. Anyway.
Well, and I just want to point out, I am wearing my workout clothes. I wasn't sure what the plan was, if we were going to get into a
I got time. If you want to go to class at 4:15, you can join class.
I'm here at Nova. I'm ready to roll.
You got your coffee. You showed up with your coffee.
Yes, I've got my coffee, but that's so I can be prepared and energetic.
Exactly. You know, I heard an interesting thing. I don't know if this is true. You know, you're friends with my neighbor Anna, Rana.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And she had mentioned
Small
that you had, I don't know if this is true, and I think she had said that all your employees came back right away as soon as you were able to open up for business. Was that true?
Not all of them, but we did have, I would say we had a strong contingent of about 5 people.
Because I know that seemed to be a problem for a lot of small businesses, like to get their employees to come back, whether they were a bar or other place.
So we're experiencing that now. Now that it's interesting, and our industry, food service, is having a big struggle with that because people are still on unemployment benefits. And I have 2 thoughts on that. One is the unemployment benefits. Clearly, you're keeping people at home. I don't have a problem with that. I get why they're doing it. That's all. That's my one sentence on that. I get it. I think also we're going to see some cross-industry changes. I think people spent a year at home, and maybe it's time to go back to that job, and they're going, yeah, I don't really know if that's what I want to do anymore. I want to change it up. I want to be a trainer. I really got into baking bread. So
did you have any of that, like, during the shutdown? Did you think for a second, fuck it, I don't want a food truck anymore. This is too much to restart.
That's a really good question. I would say no. I always knew I was going to return to this, and Liz and I were working very hard to make that return happen smoothly. What I will say is I had some family issues happening. My mom was very sick. We had a family illness, like taking care of her, and she passed away. So working through that as a family, I definitely did a lot of the, okay, what's this work-life balance about? When we go back, how can I change this? What's important? There was a lot of that happening. But no, this is definitely the job and the work I want to do. But I am looking at it in a different way, which is like, if we're grinding away doing the job every day, then how do we enjoy the fruits of our labor? So, and what's real, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It got really heavy just now, guys. But
no, it's something to think about.
It's very real.
And I always wonder, some of those people that, when it came back to going back to the office job, or maybe they realized they didn't have to go to the office job anymore, like their thoughts on things, like, do you really want to keep doing it? I don't know. There's certain careers out there where I'm like, oh, I get why that person does it. The freedom, the change of scenery. And then there's the people that work in the office where, like, the scenery never changes and it's kind of routine every day. To me, that's like, that sounds horrible. I wonder how many people will go, you know what? Getting at home, having time off to do whatever I wanted, made them realize.
Yeah, or maybe to you that sounds horrible, but to somebody else,
some people,
stability.
I know. I understand that to be true for sure.
Yeah.
Just a different beat of a different drummer.
But when COVID first happened, we did too. You mentioned your neighbor Anna. She was right, and then we didn't lose a lot of people right away. And part of that was we filed for PPP loan, and we actually paid people to stay at home for a month-ish. Like, we didn't want to lose those employees, and knowing that everybody was jumping on unemployment.
So just kind of gave them their regular pay to.
We gave I think we did like. See, I don't want to misspeak, but I don't think any of your listeners can check. 20-ish hours, and we said, hey, please.
Romeo's like, how many hours can I be on
exactly.
on a poutine truck? I can volunteer for 20 hours at the poutine truck. Do I get 1 meal a day?
We paid them basically saying, New York State won't let us be open right now, but when work becomes available, we're going to need you to come in. And that's kind of how we went from nobody working but still getting some money to phasing them in slowly. And that allowed us to keep some employees, I think, because everybody, like you said, was scared and wondering about, I don't know, that's kind of the strategy that we employed, and it worked out fairly well.
Cool. Wow.
But hopefully we never have to do any of last year again. The end.
I don't know. Could you just imagine? Like, I almost feel bad for the politician person, whoever. They would have to break the news. All right, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to do for 2 weeks. We're going to, say it. I dare you to say it. Yeah. We're going to shut down.
Exactly.
Right.
So, good news and bad news, New York State. Good news is, I don't know what that would be. The weather is awesome. It's sunny as shit. It's July. Bad news, we're going to need you to be in lockdown again.
Yeah.
There's a runaway. No questions.
Good luck with that.
And a press conference.
They better wait a good, decade before they try it, Anyway. So, in your business, what do you think some of the most challenging things that you didn't expect, to come along the way? Anything in particular that you're like, wow, I never knew that was going to happen?
Yeah, scaling up is hard. I mean, it's exciting, and I think it's natural. Some people are like, the first few years we did it, we were like, oh, people don't know what we're we're selling, and that was hard. And then some people liked it, and then we just started naturally. There was like a snowball effect of like, we're getting bigger events, we're getting bigger jobs, people want to work with us. Then there was a plateau, and that was hard, figuring out how to scale up quickly during that snowball phase.
Is that when you were going from like 1 truck to 2 trucks? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah, and even just Liz, one person, to me, to adding these bigger events where we were like, shoot, the 2 of us can't handle them, we need one more person. So adding employees, scaling up, trying to find a kitchen. We used to do all the prep out of a truck, which has a lot of limitations. Namely, there's no refrigeration, so you're prepping for that event that day, and then if you don't sell it, you're throwing it away. So like, scaling up is tricky, and I think in any business that's part of what is going to happen. Diving into it, and there was a lot of things I was real afraid to do, and it wasn't detrimental, but we could have done things quicker and faster and with more confidence. So just kind of saying to yourself like, shit, all right, this is scary and this is tricky, but
did you find it more of like, if you build it, they will come, like you upscale, or did you find the demand requires us to get bigger?
Yeah, interesting.
Because I always flirt with that, like some of the things we do here. I'm like, do we do this thing first and recruit the people, or do we wait till the people demand like this service or thing? You know, it's like, because it's, you know, you're balancing money. And
that's
like,
a great
if
question.
I miss on this,
yes,
we're going to lose a lot of money before we gain it back, and it's like, ugh. So, you know.
Yeah, and it's expensive, and there's just opportunity costs. Like maybe you lost time or clients or money, or you missed a trend. I would say initially for us first, it was a natural, the customers want more, and that's great. And then it became a, what do we build and will they come? Yeah, so I mean, some of these, the thing about food trucks that cracks me up, because I get it, because I thought the same thing, is people think, man, I'm gonna come up with this food truck, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be called I don't know, Burger Boys, and we're gonna do whatever, you know, they're gonna come up with a concept. It always starts with the idea. You're like kind of high and hungry, and you come up with a great food truck. And people think if you open the doors, people are going to smell these fries or these burgers, and they're just going to flock. And I can't tell you how many dope locations we thought we were parking at. Easton Alexander is a great example. People would say, bar nights, how come you guys aren't at Easton Alexander? Dude, we did Easton Alexander a handful of times, and it was slow as shit. Now, I don't know why that is, but it is. So, you know, the second half of our business, we reached this plateau of like, here's... we're doing good and things are still good, but they're not getting better the way that they were in the first few years. And that's where we got into the, you know, if you build it, they will come, but what do we need to build to get them here? And, you know, I think with what you do here in Nova and with fitness in general, it's way more specific, like, what are people looking for? There's like more psychology there about how do they want to work out? What do they want to learn? What needs do they want? Like for me, you and I worked out. I mean, yeah, it was mostly me working out. Matt was just training me. But
I did some great demos. Come on now.
You did. And you really helped push me up on those pull-ups. Those are hard.
First of all, I just want to say toe spotting someone through a pull-up is a lot of work on the trainer. If your trainer's not put forth the effort to toe spot you properly, I saw you need to make them work harder.
I saw the beads on your brow a little bit there when you were toe spotting me. No, but what you guys do is a lot more specific, and there's psychology involved. I didn't want to just get ripped and be a bodybuilder. I wanted to have more energy. I wanted to have my goals are, you know, everybody's goals are specific and different, and you know, not everybody wants to be Michael Jordan and just like be the best at one sport. Like, what is this? You know, what is it that each client is coming in the door for, and what'll get them to come back? So there's a lot.
Yeah, you know, it's true. I don't know. I don't have like metrics to measure this, or I have a lot of different examples, different people, case by case. But I found that more than anything, when it comes to, you know, the masses and treating, just helping people get healthy, people want to feel better about themselves. Like, I've had plenty of clients who didn't physically change that much, but they were like happier, healthier. They come in every week, every day, you know. And it was like, okay, as long as they're getting what they want, you know, I don't need to put like these. You need to have more abs, or you need to. Although, you know, some people are obviously weight loss is part of what's going to make them feel better because they'll feel healthier and look better, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. But but like when some people are like, "What do you do? You know, what kind of trainer are you?" I'm like, the kind that helps people get healthy.
Improve their lives.
I help people feel better about themselves.
Like
what that means to them is case by case, you know. And the same thing with like our CrossFit class. Like if somebody comes in, they want to do like competitions. Cool, let's show you a bunch of things, and if we need to adapt some specific training for you, our coaching staff is qualified to do so. And or if you just like, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds so I don't die early and I can stop taking all this medication, like, cool, we can do that in the same class. People can get kind of what they need and what they want, which is exciting, challenging.
Yeah. Well, I think what's great about you as a trainer and KNOVA as a community is that you guys are so focused on things like form and the proper execution of stuff that it really helps. And it not only does it help you reach those fitness goals, but like with me, it was very what's the word? It was like eye-opening. I remember initially, oh man, I don't know if you remember this, but our first like 2 sessions together, I kept laughing, and you were like, why are you laughing? Because you'd be like, all right, well, like try and do 10 push-ups, or you were kind of running me through some things to get familiar with me, right? Naturally. I was like giggling and laughing, and you're like, what is so funny? I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't think this is funny? Like that I can't do 10 sit-ups, or that I can't do all these things that I used to be able to do. And one of them was push-ups, and I had an elbow injury at the time that I really had I don't want to say convinced myself, but I really was like, I guess that elbow don't work anymore. I just can't do anything.
32 years old and your elbow doesn't work anymore?
Well, also, when you don't have health insurance, there are things that it's like, these are real concerns for people, and I'm like, I guess it doesn't work, and I don't want to make it worse. And you knew exactly what exercises to do to strengthen that elbow in small ways that all of a sudden I was knocking out push-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
That is what is, really, you can't get online. You can't get watching videos and like that kind of stuff. Is having someone watch your form and say, are you leaning into your heels during that squat? I'm like, no, fine. But then I do it and it feels so much better. That's what KNOVA and Coach Matt are really good at. And I just like to call it Coach Matt because I never do. And I see it online and it makes me feel good.
I like it. We've been training the kids over at Fairport High School.
Yeah.
And they so it's doing like their strength conditioning for the football team right now. And like the kids call me coach like all the time. And I'm like, I like this.
Yeah.
Hey coach, I was wondering, am I doing this right, coach? Can you look at it? I'm like, yes, I can, sir. Yes. Do the thing with the thing.
Do you find yourself like talking in a deeper voice? Yes, son. That looks great. Great form.
No, I find myself like the kids are knuckleheads, right? They're all boys and they're just like 15 to 18 years old, 14 to 18, something like that. And they just tell their stupid little jokes. But me, I'm got a stupid sense of humor, so I'm just like, I just overhear their conversations, and I'm like, don't interact with their conversation. You're the adult here. Don't. Just be an adult. Pretend it's not funny. Look at them sternly.
All right, guys, let's get back at it. Come on.
Oh god. I don't even. Like the other day, they were like ripping on each other's moms, and it was like mom jokes back and forth.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was so stupid. Some of the jokes were so good, but I was like, guys, focus. Here, ready, on the line, ready? Everyone stay on this line. But in my head, I'm like,
while you're like making a note on your
phone about
what that punchline was.
Started thinking up my own. It's bad. But anyway, well, like when you so like somebody in your case, like when you're laughing because you can't do basic movements.
Yeah.
I never have. I don't think many of our staff here ever have concern with what you can't do.
Right.
It's like, what mentality do you have about that? Like, are you gonna be like sitting there like calling yourself names and telling yourself you're worthless? Like, that's troubling in a lot of ways, but it's also, I can't do anything about it. But if you're like willing to like, hey, I can't do any push-ups and I'm 80 pounds overweight, I can't even run, I can't do anything, I go, okay, well, let's start with what you can do and we'll build off of that. And like, so then it's just a matter of time of putting the pieces together a little at a time. Sometimes it's like building a sandcastle 1 grain at a time. And some days, you're able to do it a shovel at a time, depends on the person. But like, it never worries me. Like, you could be in horrible shape, just in the worst. Like, and I'm never concerned with it. I'm like, okay, here's what we need to do first. And it's just a process. And if people trust you...
And you never laughed. I always giggled and was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And you were like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like...
We're just trying it, and then we're going to break it down,
But some people think, like, because they're so out of shape or unhealthy, or sometimes they don't even realize it, but that's just how it is, and there's nothing they can do about it because they're not a fit person. They, like, create this self-identity for themselves. It's, like, defeating.
Yes.
And, I mean, I guess I maybe have been conditioned to think differently because of like the profession I chose, but like once you understand the psychology, you're like doing more damage to yourself than even like, you could ever do in the gym. Like So people will think that they can't change. I can't run because I'm this, or and I'm like, well, you can run eventually. We just got to do these other things first, or you can do a push-up, but first you got to do this drill that'll help you get the the prerequisite.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who says is also in fitness, and he says never nothing, and I love that attitude because it's like never nothing. So if you get up every day and you do your 10,000 steps, or you do 10 squats, air squats, never nothing. So like doing something is building on. That's how I take it to mean. I know he probably means a lot of other things as well, but I take it to mean you're also building that mental fortitude, and that you're changing that self-deprecating. It's funny, during COVID you saw me jogging or something, and I think you texted me and said, hey, is the gym open? And I said, no, I used one of these like Couch to 5K apps to jog.
I thought you were running to knockout.
Yes. Yeah. And I said, but I started using this jogging app, and it wasn't anything other than, this is so strange, but at the time I remember thinking, and this is like, we're talking March and April when New York State was total lockdown, everybody was at home. I started thinking I needed more endurance, like mental endurance, because I was so frustrated all the time, and I would go from like feeling like, okay, we're gonna come out of this, to being like, all hope is lost, I'm gonna have to sell these food trucks and blah blah blah. And I share that because I can't be the only one feeling that, but I had this idea of like, maybe I need mental endurance, and maybe like kind of trying something. Like, I didn't love running, this, that was not and I still don't love it, frankly. People out there who love running, I don't understand you. I think
it's a different thing.
It's a different high.
I'm gonna be honest, I try to run the best I can, the farthest I can. I'm not like terrible, but there isn't a moment I enjoy it. I do it because I know it's good for me. I know the benefits to keep you a fitter person. But I'm with you, people. I grind every morning workout out.
It's tricky, but it was like, to me, it was this idea of like building mental endurance, because I was beating myself up or just not having any consistency, and it did help a lot. Right now I'm biking more, and that's a similar kind of like mental endurance. I like saying to myself, like, wow, you just read, when I rode 12 miles, I was like, I really never thought I would ride anywhere other than just to get ice cream and back. And I'm like, that was 12 miles. And I feel that was fun, So like those small increments are big.
Start small, yeah. And then there is a lot. I mean, our whole society in so many ways needs a little more mental fortitude and grit, because if you can keep it together between your ears, you can do anything you really want to with your body. Like, I mean, the process of eating the right way to lose weight, more or less, comes down to like three things. The quality of your food, get enough protein, keep your calories in check relative to how active you are or not. If you could just do that discipline long enough, with mediocre, if any, exercise, you can still improve your health.
Maintain a weight.
You maintain and improve your health. But like, people, like, when they get uncomfortable, they quit. They quit so easily, or they just go, fuck it. And it's like that analogy sometimes you've heard, like, if you have one bad meal, you go out for drinks, you have a couple poutine, things like that, and then it's like downhill. So now you're like, screw it, I'm not on a diet anymore. I'm unhealthy. I'll never lose weight. That's like the equivalent of like.
Were you watching me yesterday?
No.
Did you follow me home? Or?
No. I do drive by your house a lot though. Like, always going down to that end of Winton. I always cross over Woodstock. Anyway, don't want to tell people where you live.
Everybody knows where I live.
Yeah, shit, my bad. Nina will edit that out.
I don't store poutine at home, people, so don't come looking for me.
No, but it's like the analogy of like, I dropped my phone on the ground. I might as well just smash the screen in with my foot.
No one would think that, right?
But that's what they do with their diets. They have a bad day or a bad weekend or whatever, and then they just act like, well, it's all over. I've seen that so many times with some of my personal training clients. I just want to strangle. I'm like, okay, you had Sunday sauce with the family and you had a big dessert, and you ate too many calories. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? Oh, nothing? Well, haven't we talked about why that's important to have breakfast? Yeah, but yesterday, I'm like, we're not talking about yesterday. Like, and those are the things you have control over. But.
Well, I'm probably preaching to the choir here on this particular podcast, but also...
sometimes they need to be reminded, so, you're not telling them, you're reminding them.
It's so true. I mean, I need to be reminded constantly in this exact way where you're saying, if you eat a certain way and you're diligent with that, you can maintain weight and you can improve your health. I think people need to be reminded of the hand-in-hand, like the reciprocity between pairing two things, food and exercise. Exercise, when you work out, after a big workout in general, a lot of times people aren't feeling like going and eating a pint of ice cream. So one leads to the other. It's that kind of like, I read in a book a long time ago that people who are, healthier and exercise more also have less credit card debt. There's like these little micro changes that you make in your life that make you want to be better in other areas. So don't forget that, people.
I had a friend who was a trainer. He's actually going to be on this podcast eventually. He's big time in me right now. He's too busy.
Oh.
But he told me that his diet was his North Star. When he just focuses on eating right, he can do the other things in order at the right time. He can think clear. But when he's like, he quit drinking alcohol, not because he was an alcoholic, but because it would throw him down an eating pattern. Like he'd be junk food, fried food, and then like he'd start to be stressed out, and he'd buy something that was didn't need to buy, and like he would, just be in a bad mood to his employees or wife or something like that, and it would be like, but when for whatever reason, if he kept his diet in check, it became like kind of the North Star to follow.
Yeah.
And, and so I remember hearing that, and I kind of go through ebbs and flows of realizing the same thing. It's like, I can't tell for me now, is it my workouts that are my North Star, or is it my diet? But when I do one or the other, I want to do the other. And we kind of break down in our gym now, like we define it in a little more detail, like the 5 factors of health that you have control over.
Yeah.
I stole this from another trainer, so it's not something we came up with, unfortunately.
Which are?
So nutrition being like 1.
Yeah.
Sleep being like 1A. Consistent sleep schedule and getting appropriate amounts of sleep is very important for long-term health. It's even weight loss or gaining muscle. Then, movement, doing physical activity. Stress management. And a lot of times, like, the way you manage stress can sometimes be through food or exercise and things, or not.
Sure.
Or, like, you can create stress by not doing those things. But then community. I think there's, like, we didn't see that obvious. I know I experienced it a lot during COVID, like how much I missed the community of people, like the way, I do my business, the people I train.
Yeah.
Like, I like the personalities and the jokes and the talking and that was probably one of the hardest things for me, because besides shut down, you're stressed about what the business is going to do. I was working a ton of extra on painting houses, so I was physically tired. But then more than anything, I just missed the people.
Yeah.
And it was just like frustrating. That frustrated me so much, because it was like something I kind of knew beforehand, but then I definitely got reaffirmed that
those are your people.
I'm a extrovert, if you didn't already know. The people are great to be with. That's what makes it exciting.
I would agree with that. I mean, for sure, I like being on the truck because I like talking to customers. It feels the most natural to me when I see somebody, and we were talking about Ramil earlier. I was like, oh, I know that dude. Like, I like seeing people and checking in with them and seeing their kids get older. And it's going to sound a little weird when I say that, but like, we have a community of customers, and it can be 4 years, and I'll see somebody and be like, what's up? How's the pup? Like, the dog's name is Mabel. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like, knowing these little bits and pieces about people is how half my phone is like now filled with friends I've made at the truck, and I think that's what it's about. Cause
there's people here that have been here for years that are members of the gym, and like their kids are now going to college, and I'm like, I've actually caught myself thinking about the kid I've never actually met, because I hear somebody talking about what college they're picking, and like, oh, they're going to play baseball. I'm like, oh yeah, Doug's son's going to play baseball in college. I wonder what school he picked. And then I'm like, I've never met that kid ever. But I know his dad so well that you almost like, they become like an extension of your friends.
Well, and I think sometimes you hear people say, like, oh, I'm getting old, or like the kids are, oh, where did time go? And it's like, that's one way to look at it, but it's also like, again, that is your life. You're invested. You said it surprised you how much you missed seeing the people at the gym, because those are your people. Like, that's not getting old. That's not being weird. That's the life you built. That's what you look forward to.
And human beings, I think, are innately like, you want to be with other people.
Yes.
Like in some capacity, in a healthy way.
Yeah. It's interesting too. You said something about your friend referring to his diet as his North Star.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a conversation I had with somebody recently, which was, and it's not just related to health or like weight or fitness, but they were talking about self-care, and they said, people think of self-care as like, I'm gonna get my nails done, I'm getting a massage today, ladies. Self-care, they're like, self-care is what you do to keep yourself on a stable path. So maybe for your friend, his self-care is having his food prepared. I've realized that self-care for me is like creating a little bit of a daily routine. When my routine swings from, like, as you know, food truck life, 18-hour days to 6-hour days to whatever, I feel like I can't remember anything. I feel like I can't remember people's names. I'm like kind of not disoriented. I don't want to sound like a psycho, but I don't feel as like grounded in myself and in like confident. It makes me feel scatterbrained and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe, I love the idea of calling it a North Star, or just saying like, what does self-care mean? I think people really do think of self-care as like sitting with your book and having me time, and it's like maybe me time is a little bit every day, and maybe that's breakfast every day or lunch every day or going to bed by 7. Like that is the self-care.
Little things.
Every day, and not just like, bam, I deserve this.
Little things done well daily, stacked upon each other. It's like that saying, people always overestimate what they can do in one day and underestimate what they can do in multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of those little things, like going to bed a little earlier or just hydrating, drinking enough water. There's some of the, and I always say this a lot, but it's the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't need to drink a lot of water. It's easy to drink enough water, but it's also like I don't need to think about it. And so they don't do it. And like, but done day in day out of, say you're just a little bit dehydrated day in day out for a long time, that adds up. That affects the way you look and feel and energy, how well you sleep even, or same thing with sleep. Look at Kevin just trashing the place.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's alright.
What up, Kevin?
Oh, you're gonna go pretend to work out, huh?
God damn. I'm dressed for it. I got my sneakers. I'm ready.
All right.
If you need a spotting partner.
I mean, Ronnie, I'd love to have you in the gym again, whether you're in a CrossFit class or personal training, but that is not the workout you want to start with today.
Probably not, man. I used to like curse your name out. I was like, what did I say? I'm like, why are you so mean? And you'd be like, this is my job. And like expressionless, you just continue to watch me do whatever. I'm like, you're so mean.
Well, like, yeah, you're pretty tough cookie. You're a pretty decent athlete. So like, you could do a lot of these movements, and it's just a matter of like, do you want to? Mm-hmm. Like, and like, you didn't give me like clear, hey, I don't like doing this. So I'd be like, hey, this is what I want to do for you today. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So I was kind of like, especially because I knew you were kind of a weird stage of my career. Like I was kind of figuring it out, but also like hadn't really defined the way I do things like I do now. I think I have a much more like, I could put a person in a system and just pump out results if they're willing, or we can kind of ad lib to like what they enjoy the most, and so on and so forth. But like back then with you, I was like, let me see how she does with this. You know what I mean? And like, I wouldn't always be as good at coaching things, but maybe I am now. But you'd figure things out. Whatever you thought before, I'm better now, Ronnie.
Oh, okay? Good. I was going to say, you're totally like throwing me for a loop here. I thought you were great, and now you're like, yeah, it's all right.
Well, it's you always try to improve, right? Like,
yes. Yeah, you're always improving.
Trying to, I want, in a positive way, I want to look back and be embarrassed of how I was a year from now. You know what I mean?
In a positive way.
And sometimes along the way of trying to get better, you take some chances, you mess some things up, make some people mad, which I have done. The hardest things have changed in like the way we do business. I do business. I don't train as many one-on-one clients anymore. Just things have changed here in the gym and stuff. But it's given me opportunities in other areas. But leadership is an area I struggle with, like bad. Like, I wouldn't characterize myself as a leader per se. Have you? So it's kind of the question I was going to ask you. Like, when you're managing employees, like it's been one of the hardest things I've ever personally had to endure. Is like figuring out how I communicate, and I still am not doing it as well as I think I should. Anything in particular in like that area as far as managing your business and managing the people that work for you that?
It's hard. Here's the thing. I don't know how good a job I do. I don't really have a great perspective on how well I manage people and train them and things like that. What has worked for me, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I have a little bit of that struggle back and forth as well. What I have found is that having a system that gives people confidence allows them to do their job well. And then the management becomes smoother. And I won't say easy, but it becomes smoother. As far as tips, having a system that you can go back to and say, but this is the way we do things here, sets up the expectations right out of the gate for folks. So if there is ambiguity, they can make the choice to get on board and improve, or maybe not. Maybe they're just a client and not a coach, or whatever the case is. But I guess I'm with you, and I wish I was I wish I had lots of management advice and stuff. But I
struggle with being an empathetic person.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
it's
I'm over empathetic, so I can see all sides of it.
It's like sometimes you can see people's side and just not
Care.
Yeah. And you know,
yeah, that's true.
And I'm sorry I'm not a perfect person. I try to compensate by doing a really good job in other areas, but it's like, ugh.
Well, maybe that's where some of the structure comes in, though. Again, like, this is the way we do things. These are the modes, and you know, or whatever. This is the rubric that we use, and I don't know. I mean, it is hard to say, but like creating a good team is something we are always trying to do with the truck. And when the team is in place, it is like, it's fun. It's like you can't wait to. I don't want to say like you can't wait to go to work, but you know, when the workplace is working. Mm-hmm. It's so fun. I mean, some of my best friends came from one particular job. And when I think about that, I'm like, that was just a magic combination of people who were working hard and it was going well, and maybe some shared trauma because it wasn't a very organized workplace.
Shared trauma. I understand that one.
But if I can create a workplace where people want to come and they're working together with people because everybody's expectations are outlined, and they don't use the term shared trauma, that's one of my small goals. Yeah.
We might use shared trauma around here. But you know, it's funny too, because if I look back, I always kind of, for better or worse, I'm always trying to push the envelope. You know this. Mm-hmm. You told me one time, because I was like, you know, Ronnie, I think I want to do some stand-up comedy. I think it'd be fun to, like, you know, get up there, and you just go, Jesus. You start shaking your head. You're like, you really love to do things that are hard, don't you? And I was like,
that's gotta.
I was like, I guess.
Is so hard.
Yeah. I knew that, but I was like, I think it'd be a fun challenge, you know. Yeah. And you know, but I was like, yeah. But because I inherently like that, I try to, unfortunately, push other people, even my wife, you know, mm-hmm. really push her to, like, push her limits, and that doesn't always come across the best.
Yeah.
So at times it's been a bumpy road, you know, especially if communication's not going well. But, like, the bottom line, like, the product we offer overall is always better. Like, 2 years ago, I mean, we're just better at everything. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, you know, not as good as we could be, and not as good as some people are in other things, but, like, the things we used to worry about getting right, I don't even think about anymore. I'm like, that's, like, just an expectation.
Yeah.
And this is how we, like you're saying.
Here in KNOVA.
How we do it. And, yeah.
Well, I think, two things about that come to mind that I think are important is, it can be difficult when, like, you kind of joked and mentioned Emily, and you're like, sometimes when I say that, it doesn't go over well. Everybody has different goals, so it is tricky, you know, with any of this kind of figuring out, or maybe finding the time to, like, step back or ease off. You know, if I was having a training session and I was having a terrible day, in my experience, you never were like, lift something heavier. You just step back and let me struggle a little, even if it was probably clear to you, like, oh, what's going on today, but it ain't, whatever.
Hey, some days are the hammer, some days are the nail.
Exactly. The other thing is, I just lost it. What were you saying? Oh, the other thing about, you're like, that's just the way we do things. It's nice having that structure, and I think for anybody who is listening who's a small business person or has goals or wants to improve, you have to remind yourself of those improvements that you've made. My business partner told me once, and I wish I could remember the exact instance because it would make the story better, frankly. But like, we had just done something. It was like the biggest event we ever had, or we sold the most poutine we ever did, and we really crushed it, and we were happy. And, you know, at the end of whatever that celebration was, I was like, you know, if we move this person here, and if we staff one more person, then we could do it this way next time. And she just looked at me and she goes, you know, you can't savor a victory even for 5 minutes.
That's how it is.
That's how
I am. Yeah. And I know that about myself. Sometimes I even recognize it in the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, things like, I mean, you know, like all the little things I've ever done. When I bought my house and rental and stuff.
I gotta paint it. I gotta fix it up.
Well, no. Then I'm thinking about, all right, how do I get the next one? Where can I get? Or like, you know, like, all the things, scaling up, scaling down. You know, we talked earlier about like multiple streams of income is a good. You know, like. Yeah, and it's like, why do I need to, though? Like, sometimes you push yourself past, like, even necessity. Like, is more worth the stress of doing it?
What's the motivation? Well, and I think that's a good indicator. If you're already thinking ahead, if you're motivated, that is a good indicator. But to her point, which was an extremely good one, and I think of it often when I am stressing myself out. The point is, what I'm saying is maybe write those things down, even if they're small. I mean, it's going to sound silly, but I'll give some of my small examples. We used to not have staff. We used to not have anybody who could drive the truck that wasn't me or her.
Yeah.
Like, these are tiny victories, and they don't sound like much to you guys, but if you don't drive stick, you don't understand my problems. One of our truck is a stick. Like, there's all these little things. We used to not have a scheduling system where people could see their schedule online. We used to not accept credit cards. These all are such tiny things, but when I think about them, I'm like, oh yeah, we've come a long way. You have to remind yourself, whether it's a health journey or anything else, you've come a long way, you know?
So in one of the last books I recently read, it's called Winning. And like a lot of the people that are high achievers are pushing the pace. Like, you eventually at some point stop hoping to achieve things and you expect to achieve things. So like when you win the championship, in like this case, you expected to get there, your mind, the whole time. That's why you were doing all the work. So then in the moment, it's not like oh my God, look what we did. This is so exciting. It was like, no shit, I've been working my ass off for 4 years or whatever years to get to that thing. It's like, you can't enjoy it in the moment. And that's like an unfortunate side effect of highly driven, focused people.
Yeah.
I always flirt back and forth. Do I have that mentality, or do I have some type of like deep-seated father issue that doesn't allow me to ever feel like I've achieved enough? You know what I mean?
Well, we all do. We all have daddy issues.
You know what I'm saying, though? Yeah. Like, is it something deeper like that? Or is it like because I did, to some degree, although I was hoping, I was also expecting to achieve certain things for myself? And
yeah, it's
complicated. I don't know the answer, but
it's a really good point. And the seat that I sit in, you're just kind of reminding me that, like, when my business partner says to me, hey, you can't savor victory for 5 minutes. When I think about the fact that, like, in our peak season when things are going well, and we haven't had a regular peak season this year or last year because of COVID, but let's go to the year before. We hire somewhere between 12 and 16 people on our staff. We have 2 trucks running. We go to sometimes 4 events a day. It takes some coordination to get that together. And if at the end of our biggest sales day ever, or whatever that example was that I can't remember, I say, well, here's how we could do it better next time. Yeah. What is my entire team of people who just worked their asses off in a shared goal that we all had together, what are they hearing? I'm guessing it's not, great, we can work harder and hit a new metric. They're hearing, is this bitch fucking crazy?
Because I do that, and that's one of the reasons that I've had problems with, like, you know, being what I would assume to be a leader or coaching other coaches is, like, my goal is, hey, you know, we need our coaches to do this really well, this activity, this group manager thing, or teach this exercise. So then when I see them do it, I'm like, man, that's pretty much perfect. Yeah. All right, good, check.
Yeah.
Rather than I tend to not be a person who's like, good job, you did exactly what. Yeah. Because I expected them to learn how to do it, and now that creates exactly what you're talking about, where they're like, all they hear is, oh, now there's another thing that I have to work on because I didn't, you know, there's always something else I'm doing wrong. Yeah. Where I didn't mean it to be that way. I would want them to be like, oh yeah, the thing that we were working on, you did that, great. Yeah. But now there's another thing. Because there's always another thing.
And I would guess.
But they're not hearing it the way I think of it. I think of it, check, you got that one in your back pocket, now let's go on to the next.
And if I had to guess, you probably felt like, check. Yeah. I like how you're laughing when you're like, when I said if I had to guess.
I just wonder what you're about to say later.
No, well, let's say there's a coach, Ronnie. Maybe you've got a coach, Ronnie. And,
I do have a coach, Ronnie.
Well, it's a he, but maybe it's a she in this example, and she does the thing that you expected, and you're like, great, now let's move on to the next. On the one hand, from your perspective, you're probably thinking, I knew she was capable of this. Yeah. And if I didn't think she was capable, I wouldn't be helping her get there.
That's exactly it.
But you're right. I think that you need to stop and remind yourself, like, Ronnie needs a lot of reinforcement, and I need to be told I'm fancy and pretty sometimes, and all that stuff. So if anyone's listening,
I gotta get better at that.
Please stop by and tell me I'm fancy and pretty. That's it.
Yeah, okay. Next time I buy poutine, you're there. That's the first thing I want to say.
Yes,
and then everyone's gonna be like, "Well, this guy, please be escorted off the premises."
No, I need lots of reinforcement.
You just Me Too'd our owner.
No, but a friend of mine who works in HR told me this once, and I thought, all these things that you think are funny, if you don't even have to tell anybody about them, they're not weird if you just do them and don't even tell anybody, or you can share it like I'm about to. But he was like, hey, every 3 weeks you got to compliment your staff or someone or your spouse or whoever the person is that you're thinking, you know, that maybe you're thinking about. And I go, every 3 weeks, what is that? And he goes, it's a freaking magic number. He goes, and it's not a joke. You as the boss, he goes, you tell me about all these staff members you have and how great they are. He goes, when was the last time you told them specifically, that was awesome what you just did? And I was like, dude, I can't remember. He goes, every 3 weeks, put it on your calendar. And that's the part that feels silly. He goes, add a reminder on your phone. No one's going to see it. Tell them.
Can I hire someone to do it for me?
No, it's got to come from you.
I know.
Dad, it's got to come from you, Dad.
God,
it needs more coming from you.
Maybe. I know this is good. This is good advice, but maybe I don't just want to listen to it.
Oh, see?
All right. Well, we've been on here for a while.
Like
we could keep talking for so much longer, I'm sure. We do have a CrossFit class coming up at 4:15.
We have class coming up, and we have a poutine restaurant to open. So maybe you just come there, and we'll do another talk there. That would be fun. Or we could do like a Nova happy hour. There will be beer and wine available.
Ooh.
So we could do a little like Nova come back to the neighborhood happy hour. That'd be fun.
It's like if I was a superhero, or this gym was a superhero. Poutine would literally be the nemesis.
Oh, I thought you were going to say this
come
is like
have fried.
I thought you were going to say this is like a DC Marvel crossover. I was like, yeah.
Oh, or that. I guess it could be that. No, well, I don't know. It's like more like if you're Iron Man, and then there's the the other bad guy. Okay. But I mean, we're talking lean meats, vegetables, nuts, seeds, fruit. Little sugar, and then there's like beer, wine, deep fried fries,
gravy, butter, cheese. Yes. Well, all things in moderation, as we said, and we are going to have a diversified menu. I'm pretty excited.
Superman needs Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
I didn't think about who the bad guy was.
Yeah, you have to have a nemesis.
Yeah, you got it.
There's this author I really like, Roxane Gay, and she's always on Twitter talking about her nemesis. And she has explained in like an essay of hers, she's like, it's whoever I need to put myself up against to push to that next step. So she refers to a nemesis, but there's lots of them.
So there's lots of, I've heard lots of stories with athletes that do stuff like that. They create a fallacy in their head to motivate themselves. So Michael Jordan used to he used to choose to be offended by preposterous things.
Yeah.
Like somebody would tell him a good game, Mike, like a slap him on the back, and he would
how dare you
tell him, exactly. Yeah. He'd basically tell himself like, what the fuck did he mean by that?
Yeah,
and then he'd go out and take it out on him in the next game, and he plays it. And I'm like, that's partly crazy, but I mean, when you're like already the best at something, to stay motivated is probably hard.
I find that a lot with like the super athletes. Like whenever I hear someone talk about David Goggins, I'm like, that is amazing. But then also I'm like, but what's wrong upstairs? Like, what's not connecting that you're like
sometimes
running until you're peeing blood? Do I have to have that kind of goal? I don't want it. I don't want that goal. Is that okay?
I like to do this somewhat masochistic thing where I'll just listen to David Goggins. It's like he's yelling at me, like telling me I'm a bitch. Like, you better get to work. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should get to work. He's just like going off. He's like, I was just a dumb piece of shit kid. He's like telling himself, I'm like, yeah, I was a dumb piece of shit. I'm like, you better get motivated.
You're like, please yell.
And I'm like, if somebody heard what was going on in my truck because I drive down the street, listening to David Goggins yell at me, they'd be like, that guy shouldn't be responsible for other people.
Well, now I know what you're doing if I pass you, so that'll be good.
Sometimes I'm listening to Disney music though, so it depends on the mood. Sometimes you just need someone to yell at you, but you also don't want someone to actually yell at you.
Yeah, sometimes you need to bump Moana or whatever. So
Moana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's not your Disney. What's your Disney of choice?
Well, my favorite.
Your favorite Disney movie too?
Well, I don't know. My favorite soundtrack is Tarzan. Why do you hate that?
I was hoping
Why do you hate that? Why do you hate Phil Collins so much? Did he do something in the last year that I didn't know about?
No, it's funny because actually I was on my personal Instagram. I was bitching about Phil Collins for like a week. He just kept popping up.
What was that about?
Popping up in front of me, and I hate that guy so much.
When you were like hating on Phil Collins, I was like, will you shut your whore mouth? Tarzan was the greatest Disney soundtrack ever made.
I've never even seen that movie because he made the soundtrack. This is a long-standing thing. I hate him, and I hate when
Does he look like an ex-boyfriend or something?
No, but
like,
I hate happened? When dudes try and tell me to listen to Genesis or well, do you know about his drumming? I'm like, just back off.
I don't know crap about Phil Collins other than that soundtrack, and that's the only one I listen to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. I don't know. I'm sorry, man. This is the one thing we can't line up on. That and do you eat mushrooms?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, those two things.
You don't eat mushrooms?
No. All right. I don't mess with mushrooms.
This podcast is dying. We gotta get out of here. Well, if you stuck with us this far, thanks for listening. Mm-hmm. This has been Ronnie McLeod, or Ronnie MC.
Ronnie MC or Ronster Mash on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, for the Ronster Mash. Love that name.
And you should come visit one of our trucks.
Yes, build a Petit Poutine truck. Or will it be called the Petit Poutine restaurant?
Not sure
You don't have a
yet.
name yet. Okay.
We're working on it. It's gonna be cool. But yeah, Le Petit Poutine. You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter. We are also.
What if it
on
could
Facebook.
be like the El Grande
Something.
Poutine?
It's gonna be different. So if you follow us online, you're gonna get all the insider info on the posting. I think we're gonna be doing some behind the scenes stuff. So I'm pretty excited.
Cool. Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you so
having me.
much. You have so much good insight. You're such a smart, motivated person.
Aw.
Like even outside of just the business, I knew you'd be a good person to talk to on the podcast, just because
Well, thanks.
there's sometimes people they only know their field. They're only an expert. Not that the other guests we've had are like that, but I just knew from knowing you, I've trained a lot of people that was like Ronnie always has thoughts. Like it was just things to say. She's like. Cerebral.
Yeah.
Like she thinks about something. There are people out there that just don't. They go through the pin patterns of life with no real thoughts to them, and they're not bad people, but they're not always the greatest people to talk to. So
They're not us.
I knew if you would come in and chat, we could do a little crossover business to business, and then I did learn something insightful. Apparently, I have to have empathy.
Well, and just to teens, especially when it comes to ladies. Well, thank you for having me. I miss you and I miss Nova, so hopefully I'll be getting back in here
Hey,
soon.
yeah, get in here. Come and try a couple classes.
Yeah, I gotta make time.
Or if you want training, of course, I'm here for you. But my schedule is limited. So, but classes galore. We're running better than ever. Lots of great people.
I'm excited. The new gym looks awesome, so I'll be in here. Hey, if you're a listener and you haven't been in here yet, we could come on the same day. Let me know. Let's greenlight the return movement. Let's do it.
Oh, let's do it. Rally the troops. All right, and that's a wrap. Goodbye.